Hello friends, in today's video I'm going to be choosing and boxing up the books that I'm reading for the rest of the year. Now, why am I doing such a thing? Because I personally would never plan out my reading that far. I really don't plan out my reading beyond a week or two. And the reason is unfortunate circumstances. So my wife and I are going to be moving across the country in just a few weeks. And the original plan was for us to move from our current home here in Colorado Springs into a new home over in eastern Tennessee. However, due to the housing market, the selling process and buying, my wife being pregnant, all sorts of factors, it's looking like we're going to be staying with family throughout the rest of the year in Richmond, Virginia. So that means I have to be very selective with which books I bring with me to Virginia, while the rest, this whole library behind me, in addition to my wife's multiple shelves of books, are going to be sitting in a storage unit until we purchase a new house and move into that home, likely either towards right near the end of the year or in early 2026. So, with that in mind, I thought it would be fun to make a video out of this selection process. And so, yeah, I took a look at my Goodreads, and so far this year, right at the end of June, I have read 39 books. So, in my mind, I'm going to give myself 45 books. And I think that gives me a little bit of options to, a little bit of variety to choose from, as well as I'm inevitably going to buy some books in Richmond, Virginia, and also along our trip across the country that'll take us 3-4 days. We plan to stop at different bookstores, whether it's, in Kansas, in Missouri, Tennessee, things like that. So I'm going to be buying books as well, but I think I'd like to choose 45 books. And I will say 2 of those are already pre-selected basically because they're in the book club, which is Demons by Dostoevsky and The Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann. But besides that, I have some work cut out for me. 43 books to choose. I need to be careful. I need to be decisive, intentional with my selection. So with that overture out of the way, I got my box, I got my books behind me. Let's get to choosing. All right, so I'm going to break this into a couple different rounds, and I think I'm going to choose 55 to 60 books, and then we're going to narrow things down together at the end. But there's 2 key factors I'm keeping in mind as I'm making my selections. The first is size of the book. I only have this one box that I'm packing all these books into. So I can't be packing massive chunkers or just oddly shaped, long, tall books. Like I have to kind of keep that in mind, especially since my wife is going to be adding a few books as well into here. Although for the most part, she plans to do mostly maybe like 90% e-reading while we're in Virginia. However, that's just something I have to keep in mind is how many books I can actually pack in here. So size matters. And then the other factor I have to keep in mind is aiming for some sense of variety. Not just as far as genre, but as far as length, as far as writing style, as far as material setting, nonfiction versus fiction, all these sorts of things. I'm trying to keep that in mind as well. So this first round, I think what I'm going to do is just select no-brainers. And why are they no-brainers? I don't know. Either because I've been meaning to get to them, I love the author, I have high faith that I would like this specific work, or lastly, just vibes. Something about the author, the work, the cover, it's calling my name. I need it. I need to read it. I need to have it with me. That's going to be this first round. So maybe 10 or 12 books, but let's select those no-brainers. Now, where else would we start but on the Russian shelf? And there's been one novel that ever since I bought it, I've felt this urge to read it. I feel like it's been calling my name, and that is The Art Matonov Business by Maxim Gorky. Now, this is both a safe choice because I really enjoyed Gorky's writing in Детство, or My Childhood, which is the first book in his autobiographical trilogy, but also it's a bit of a vibes pick because this is a very rare book. It's only been published in English, I believe, twice, and I think this was the most recent time in like the 50s or 60s. And his works in fiction just rarely, if ever, are published. So I'm very curious to see what I'll make of Gorky's fiction writing. And also, he just has, to say nothing about maybe his morals or his history as a person, but he has a very distinct and iconic look as well, which I like. So a bit of a vibes pick. And then the other one I want to make sure I pack is Chekhov's plays. I'm actually finishing up Chekhov's short stories right now, which has, I want to say, like 10 or 12 of his short stories. This has, I believe, 5 to 8 of his plays, including the famous ones like The Seagull, Cherry Orchard, Three Sisters, Uncle Vanya, things like that. And again, I really enjoy Chekhov's writings, and I've been meaning to get to his plays. So that's another kind of gimme pick right there. And then, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be rereading Demons by Dostoevsky with my book club in October and November. So definitely going to be packing that. And then I think the last no-brainer off this shelf would be The White Guard by Mikhail Bulgakov. I'm slowly working my way through his entire backlist, and this was a neat little addition I bought a few weeks back. All right, I got a little stack here that I'm going to burn through. So I actually just bought this yesterday, but I found a used copy of John Williams' Butcher's Crossing. Perfect timing. Definitely going to be packing that because that was in my 25 and 25 video I posted earlier this year of books I plan to read this year. And then another book I bought, this is an author I've been meaning to get into and read. No one's really been pushing this author on me in the comments, but I think it has been mentioned a few times, is Somerset Maugham. And this is Of Human Bondage. So I'm excited to read that. It's a little bit of a longer novel, but I figured I'd take the risk. I read the first few pages. I feel like the style seemed up my alley, so we're going to give it a go in this very neat modern library edition. I love these editions. I have a few of them on my shelf, so that's going to be packed. And then this stack I was trying to aim for before we moved, but I probably won't get to them, and that is The Noise of Time by Osip Mandelstam. And then this is a collection of stories from Alexander Pushkin that I've yet to really dig into. I've read The Captain's Daughter, but not much beyond that. I've really just read The Captain's Daughter and Yevgeny Onegin from the great Alexander Pushkin. So I have more work cut out for me. So that's his collected stories. I'll kind of bounce around there. And then, as I mentioned, for the book club in August and September, we're going to be reading The Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann. Now, transitioning back to the shelf, what I would like to do while I'm in Virginia throughout the next 6 months is dive back into some of these short story collections that I've yet to complete. One of those that I'd really feel like I could just kind of, again, naturally shift in and out of, especially with a baby, having short stories will be nice if I don't feel ready mentally or physically to settle into a long novel, is Borges. I've read about 12 to 15 of the short stories in here, and this is his completed fictions. Borges is never a bad time, never disappointed, so definitely going to be packing that, which it's a big book, but it'll be it's a smart choice, definitely a no-brainer there. You see, I'm really tempted right now to get Kalima stories or Life and Fate, but neither of them are no-brainers, so we're going to come back to them later. I absolutely love these editions of Stalingrad that I got by David M. Glantz, and I'm very eager to dive into World War II history, but not yet. And these are both, monstrous books to pack, so they will not be coming along with me, unfortunately. That will be a 2026 project. And then I have this stack of Min Comp by Knausgaard, and I've already read the top 2 there. I think I'm just going to bring 3. I'd like to read one more of his so that next year maybe I can try and finish 4, 5, 6. So put me down for reading book number 3 at some point. Oh, I definitely wanted to bring this one. Resurrection by Lев Tolstoy. This is supposedly one of his greatest novels. I think it's kind of one of those hipster picks of like, oh, I'm too good for War and Peace or Anna Karenina. My favorite Tolstoy novel is Resurrection. But I think for fair reason, from what I hear, it's one of his more complex novels. So, and I love this edition I found up in Denver, published out of Moscow. So I'm going to be taking that novel. See, I don't know if either of these are no-brainers, but actually, I don't know if that's fair to say. 3 stories in here or 3 novels, I should say, from Yukio Mishima. I've already read The Sailor Who Fell from Grace with the Sea. This also has Confessions of a Mask and The Temple of the Golden Pavilion, neither of which I have read. I think this is going to be a safe pick, and it's like 2 novels in one, so it's also like smart size-wise to fit into the box. And I'll put Miss Carino back over here. All right, we're on the floor now, so things are getting serious. And this has really been my TBR for the year for the most part. I've deviated a lot from it just because one naturally buys books and then has this urge to read some of those new ones. But let's dig in here and see which ones we definitely want to read. Some of these I'm already going to be reading over the next few weeks before we move, but these novels right here, these 2 volumes of Virgin Soil Upturned by Mikhail Sholokhov, these are definitely coming with me. So let me put those up here on the table. Siddhartha and White Noise, I probably won't get to these before we leave. So I'm going to pack these as well. Herman Hesse and Mr. Don DeLillo, White Noise. Although I have Libra too, but Libra, I have the hardcover. It's a little bit bigger and chunkier. Don't know if I can fit it in the box as comfortably. Now, one no-brainer, I'm kind of tempted to take one or the other, but Vladimir Sorokin. You guys know I recommended actually in my last video his short story collections, and they've been quirky, they've been strange. I haven't loved all of them. My reviews are a little bit ambivalent at times. However, I do plan on still continuing my project of reading not maybe all of his works, but the vast majority, and making some sort of larger project surrounding his works the same way that I did with Laszlo Krasznahorkai. So, continuing with that, Blue Lord, I'm packing this with me. I'm tempted to take Teluria, but Blue Lord I think is just one of his more distinct and odd and inventive works. So I'm going to be packing that for sure. That's a no-brainer for me. See, staring at this list right here, I have 6 novels from Colette. I have Dr. Faustus by Thomas Mann, Cancer Ward by Solzhenitsyn, The Big Green Tent by Ludmila Ulitskaya. That's a novel I'm tempted to put up on the table. It's not a no-brainer, so I'll hold off for now. But let me see if there's any definite reads for me over here. Oh, definitely. Dr. Zhivago by Boris Pasternak. Also, I want to take, I always, of all the, Russification of these names that I pronounce correctly, this one I just butcher every time. But the Gololovs by Soltykov-Shchedrin. Definitely want to take that. This is I love these Signet Classics, but this one is quite beat up, but it's in decent shape, good enough to read. That's definitely a no-brainer. Been meaning to read him. Is there anything else that is a no-doubter, gotta read it, going in the box? You know what? I'll do one more from this area. And that's going to be The Unbearable Being of Light. No, what is it? I tried to do it without looking at the title. The Unbearable Lightness of Being. The Unbearable Being of Lightness. I guess it's also, kind of a strange title anyway. But The Unbearable Being of Lightness by Milan Kundera. This isn't too big of a book either. So that's what I'm trying to keep in mind. Yeah, just about 300 pages. So I think I have a good mix of medium to long to short length books up there. So let me count that batch, and then we'll make the rest of our selections. All right, so currently we have 20 books right here. So a bit more no-brainers than I thought with my 10 to 12, but 20 books here, that still leaves us about, 25 more to go. All right, we're gonna start our way back up at the top, and I think I'm curious about Vasily Aksyonov, but I don't know how long this book is. Okay, no, fairly short actually, only about 200 pages, so that'll be a new author for me and a more modern writer, Vasily Aksyonov, Quest for an Island, which, again, I don't know if this is on the island, well, it says here on the back, on the island of Crimea, as if that's a different book. I don't know if this is just a different title. It's still to be determined, or to be figured out, I should say. Now let's see if there is another novel I definitely want to take. Well, I know I want to take, so I mentioned, I want to take a lot of short story collections. I think they're fun to dig into. They're easy to kind of, again, move in and out, non-committal. I can always kind of, again, float in and out of them. So I think I'll take this collection of Nervous People and Other Stories by Mikhail Soshenka. So there we go there. And then, see, I want to dig into the Gulag Archipelago. I just am not ready yet. I don't know. I feel like I'm making it more of a daunting task than it really is. Just one volume at a time, Brock. Let me see, because sometimes I have some books sneakily back here. Like there is this one I know. It's actually a really unique copy that one of you sent me. The Symphony for the City of the Dead. It's about Dmitri Shostakovich and the siege of Leningrad, and the symphony number 7 that he wrote along with, or in the midst of the siege. I don't. Maybe I will pack this. F it. We're gonna pack it. It's just under 400 pages. I think it's a very unique topic, I would say. So I think that'll be a fun read, actually. So let me bring that with me. That might be it for this shelf for now. Let's come back to this. All right, so that should put us at 23 books. See if we can grab a few off this shelf. All right, definitely since they're going to be maybes, let's just grab these 2 chunkers right here. Hopefully these books don't fall. Okay, perfect. So Life and Fate by Vasily Grossman, which one of you have commented like 5 times that I need to read Stalingrad first. I might, but I already have this in hand, but I might. We'll see. So we'll see. And then the other beefy book I have here is Kalima Stories by Varlam Shalamov, which is probably the better book to take with me. I think Life and Fate is going to be phenomenal. I almost just want to savor that. I don't want to be reading that in the midst of newborn, Christmas, holidays, family. I don't want to be distracted with such a heavy book. Although, I mean, stories about the gulags, I'm sure, are no less heavy. But let's keep looking here. I have most of my Penguins back here, but I've read generally all of those. I did get this one book. So I had a subscription to Archipelago Books, which is a very unique publisher out of New York for a while. And the last book I got is it's written in the Arabic. I'm not sure if the writer is Persian or from what country exactly, but Elias Corey, Children of the Ghetto. I think it's actually the second book in a series, which makes it a little bit tricky, but I am a little bit curious about that. But I'm going to just put that on the shelf for now. See, here's another one, Middlemarch by George Eliot. I have this beautiful edition that I was sent, this Folio Society edition. But I already have a few long books. I've already picked out maybe 8 or 9 500 plus page novels, and I think that's like 700-800 pages. So I'm gonna say no on that. All right, I think on the round 2, that's where I pick up Grotesque. I think that'll be a nice novel to mix things up, get a little Japanese literature to disrupt this Russian invasion going on. And then the rest of these I've read, so I don't need to really examine those. All right, so I think this puts me at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what is that? 26 books. And I was just thinking, oh, actually I'm moving right at the end of July into August, so it's not a full half year. So I'm thinking about that. I'm also thinking about the fact that some of these novels are a bit bigger, and some of them have 2 novels packed in one. Actually, 2, maybe 3 have that, and then some short story collections. So I'm thinking, let's select 30 books, maybe 35. We'll see. We'll have some honorable mentions that maybe get into the box if there's room. Let's select a strong 30 because I'm going to buy, I don't know, anywhere from probably 5, 12, 15 books while I'm in Virginia and on the way to Virginia. So that'll be plenty for the year. So let's bring it back a bit from the 45 that I said earlier. So let's maybe select 35 and then let's narrow it down to the 30 that will bring. So anyway, let's now look at this bottom shelf again, see what we have. So if you guys watch my vlog reading a bunch of short stories, you'll know that I already dug into this collection from Isaac Babel. The only really part of this book that I didn't read is Red Cavalry, which is packed into this. So I think I'll take that. That's a strong bet, and I think essentially only 150 pages I haven't read of this. So kind of halfway done already, and then, so I think now is when I'll take the Big Green Tint from Ulitskaya. That'll be nice, although it's, again, big bulky book, so hopefully all that will fit. But it's a little bit deceiving. I think this is only about 500 pages. It's not, it's nothing too crazy. So what's that put us at? 28, I believe? Gosh, it's a little bit harder, honestly, to narrow this down to 35. Let's do To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf, of course. And I bought this one almost a year ago, and it's a beautiful copy, The Petty Demon by Sorogub. But let me see how long it is. Not that long, like 340 pages, 350 on the dot, actually. Not too bad. Might be a nice change of pace. All right, it's a maybe, so that puts us at 30. Oof, let's see what else we have here. I don't know, maybe I need to go back up. See, the thing is, I want to read the second book of Gorky's autobiography. I believe it's called like My Universities, or no, My Apprenticeship, I think is what it's called. Because I have the third book, but I need the one that matches the set I already have, because I'm just missing the one. But I only have the third, so I'd either need to spend money to buy the second, which I'm trying to like chill on the spending of books because I have plenty to read. So I want to read that, but maybe what I'll take instead is I have this neat book I bought as well of his letters to a variety of prominent figures within the Soviet Union. It has a bunch of cool pictures as well in here. He has notes to Chekhov, Tolstoy, maybe even Lenin, things like that. So let me take that from good old Maxim Pishkov. I don't know, man. I'm kind of tempted to take Yuri Alesha's Love and Other Stories. I don't know. I feel like I need to get some nonfiction in over here, but all of the nonfiction I have are long books. Like I have a couple from Figes. Hopefully that's how it's pronounced. I always get nervous with his last name. But Figes. And I have The Oligarchs by David E. Hoffman. I already mentioned the Stalingrad books. But you know what I might take is A People's Tragedy, because I've yet to read that. And if I'm going to take like one longish history book, I'll take that. So let me grab that from the shelf, and I think that will do it. All right, we have made our, well, I should say I have made my selections. Got a bunch of piles here, so I want to walk you through and just recap all the books I selected. The 2 or 3 I'm going to kick to the curb just until next year. And then we're going to pack these things up in this box. So let me grab my box, and also I'll say that I got some bubble wrap. We've been hoarding all kinds of packing supplies from different shipments and packages that we've been receiving. So hopefully we can kind of protect the books and keep them in good shape, and particularly for the books that are going to be in a storage unit for a long time. One, have no fear, we are going to get a climate-controlled storage unit, so that should help hopefully avoid any kind of moisture exposure, mold, anything like that. And then, like I mentioned, bubble wrap and all sorts of things to make sure that the books are safe and secure. And then the other thing we're going to be adding into all the boxes, but definitely the ones that we're going to be moving with us as well, are these kind of desiccant packets, these little silica gel packets, just to help, again, absorb moisture, keep things dry. But that's all out of the way. Let's get to these books. Let me grab my box, and we'll start with the big boys first to establish a base, you know. All right, so the first one, Borges, The Complete Fictions. Next up is The Big Green Tent by Ludmila Ulitskaya. Oh, that's perfect. Those line up. I don't know if I can show you. They're lining up perfect so far. Probably won't last long. Another big book is A People's Tragedy by Orlando Figes. I'm going to sound really stupid if it's just Figs or something like that, but it's the risk I take. This one, oops. Oh, I didn't mention, that's the Symphony for the City of the Dead by M.T. Anderson. Thomas Mann's The Magic Mountain in here. Let's do Schulhof's Virgin Soil Upturned. Every Man's Library edition of Alexander Pushkin's The Collected Stories, which I actually wonder for a second. I recently, for my Russian homework that my tutor gave me, listened to a podcast about one of his stories called Mietel. Yep, The Blizzard, it said this. Very neat. It's a very short story, but anyway, it's more of a me thing. The Demons, Dostoevsky, of course. Book number 3 of Karl Uwe Knausgaard's My Struggle. Here's a good tall book here, Quest for an Island by Vasily Aksyonov. I'm going to put this with the Pushkin book because these are obviously going to be the same size. The Petty Demon by Fyodor Sologub. Yukio Mishima, 3 different novels. Box is starting to get heavy, as you'd imagine. I don't think I'm going to take both of these. So what I'm going to do is take Kalima Stories and save Life and Fate for another time. Hopefully I'm not breaking any hearts there. But Kalima Stories will be a great one to bring along with me. Actually, I might use that as like a good space filler. Resurrection by Lев Tolstoy. Nervous People and Other Stories by Mikhail Zoshenka. There's actually a decent bit of space in this box. That doesn't mean I'm going to bring more books, but yeah, not too bad so far. Got me a solid stack of paperbacks here. So I have White Noise by Don DeLillo, Milan Kundera's The Unbearable Lightness of Being, Isaac Babio's The Collected Stories, Grotesque by Natsuo Carino, Vladimir Sorokin's Blue Lord, John Williams' Butcher's Crossing, and Osip Mandelstam's The Noise of Time. Somerset Maughams of Human Bondage, Anton Chekhov's Plays, which, let me see exactly how many there are. 7 plays in here. 2 works from Gorky, some of his letters, and then the Aratpatonov Business, which I'll give special treatment here. And then Mikhail Bulgakov's The White Guard. And for reference, I'm not packing Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse, which I believe that's how it's pronounced. I got corrected in my last video or one of my previous videos by a German speaker, so I think Hermann Hesse. But I'm not going to take this because it's only like 100 pages, and I think I'm going to be able to read it before we move. So I'm just going to add it to the stack of July books, basically. So that's going to be it. And now I almost feel like since I have space, I should take this, but this box is heavy enough. These are enough books. Now I have some room to add to the box if we buy along the way, when we buy along the way. So that's going to be it for this video. Hopefully this was a fun video. Like I said, it's not something I normally like to do or would do, is plan out my year this far in advance. But when you're moving, it's already a hassle to move that many books, which I know is the advantage of e-readers. But I romanticize the physical copy. I prefer reading a physical book, the experience of it, all of that. So as a result, my consequence is that I have to haul pounds upon pounds and boxes upon boxes of books. But all in all, hopefully this was a fun video, a little bit of fun commentary along the way, and my selections delighted or interested you in some shape or form. So let me know in the comment section down below, did I choose wrong? What other books that you saw on my shelf should I maybe added in? And I will say that before we move, I'm going to be doing one kind of final library tour and showing some of the books, showing some of the things as I pack them away, and just having nice banter as I pack up my library. And I've actually already packed up like almost all of my philosophy books, so that's what you may have not noticed on the shelf. But I've read all of those anyway, so that's why I didn't pick them in this video. But I will have that kind of final library tour, I will say, before we move. So let me know in the comments any thoughts at all. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe for more content, and I will see you all in the next one.